guys, I'm Bree and I am back with another tips and tricks video. I want to thank everyone for your super sweet comments and support with my last video, which is my first one. I really appreciate it, and I blame you for why I'm doing another one because a lot of you asked for it, so here you go. Today I wanted to talk to you about a plant specifically that I feel like in all the forums and groups that I'm a part of, it's probably the most talked about plant that people struggle with, which is interesting because I didn't realize that when I got the cuttings. I ordered 2 very small cuttings back in November, and then started seeing a lot more of those posts and was like, oh crap, I'm gonna kill this thing. That was a waste, but turns out I guess it's because I'm used, like I talked about, I started with cacti as houseplants, and that's where I excelled, which gave me the confidence to go into tropicals, and now here I am. But maybe that's why is that I realized it was kind of like that, or I'm just randomly lucky and it's not anything to do with me, it's just a happy plant. So the one I'm talking about is the much debated but very, very beautiful string of pearls. I love this guy. He has the coolest texture to me, like almost sticky. It's so interesting, and it's so funny because one of my good friends, I feel like I have to guard the plant when she comes over because she just wants to pop them. And they really are just the funnest little plant. I love it. But a lot of people talk about how it dies on them, and they have tried multiple times, and so I just wanted to share what I do for it, and hopefully that helps you guys. I mean, I know every plant's different and every conditions are different, but maybe there's something in here that'll help you be successful with your next string of pearls. So this one, like I said, I've taken a lot of cuttings from this one also, but he came as about 2 little pieces like this back in November, and he is really happy. He's got so many new little growth points coming in. And to bring in my last video, this is another plant that also likes to be pruned, and there's actually 2 ways you can make this fuller, and this goes for all stringing plants. They don't like to get super long and stringy, they like to here and there have either wrap a strand or 2 back around so it can pull some more roots, or you can cut and stick back into the pot as well to help it fill in and get a stronger base. But with all of mine, I usually wrap up a few pieces and put in, and here's my trick for that. I'm sure they sell some fancy tool for this, but this is what I had on hand and it's cheaper. So what I use, because for it to root, it needs to have good contact with the soil. If it comes up off the soil, it's not going to grow those strong roots. It'll likely just either rot or die. And I've tried them in water since, and I've never had one root in water, but I know a lot of people do it that way. So like I said, everyone's different and conditions are different, but again, this is what has worked well for me. So my little trick is just a bobby pin. Very simple, but you just have to make sure that you don't slide it onto the stem because they're really fragile and it's going to break it. But I just open it up and then put it on, and then you can stick that down into the dirt, and then it's going to hold it securely against the soil so that it has good contact and it can root. Excuse me. There's also these little points on here that you can see where it's going to root. So you want to make sure, especially those spots, are next to the soil. But this one, he does really great, and you can see where I've pruned him as well. And he's got all his little offshoots coming off. They're just the funnest little plant. So if you're nervous, give it a shot. Hopefully with the next few tips, you'll be successful with it. But the first one I'm going to talk about is watering. And there's a big debate on this one, whether you water from the top or water from the bottom, and I feel like it ties in to my next tip about light. So I have always watered mine from the top, but mine also get light on the roots. I feel like with a lot of hanging plants, people tend to hang them too high so that the bottom of the plant gets light, but not the roots. And I feel like that's an essential part for these, is that their roots get light. And actually the bottoms of my plant don't get as much light. It's, you know, mostly concentrated on the roots. And maybe that's why, I mean, most of his growth points come out from the top. He's, you know, super full and bubbling over. So it's important to remember that not just the base of the plant needs light. You need to hang it in a spot or put it in a spot where its roots are also getting sunlight. And I think that's why if people water from the top, it can tend to rot it, because if it's not getting light, it's going to be harder for those pearls to dry that are on top. And obviously with most succulents, if they remain wet, they rot super easy. So I think that is one of the problems. So if it's not getting light, you know, by all means water from the bottom. And I leave it in here. I water and I let the bottom sit in there so it can soak anything back up that it wants to for about 15 or 20 minutes, but then I dump the extra so that it's not sitting in water for a long period of time. But that really, I feel like, is the two key components for this guy. And not a ton of water, you don't want to soak it. But that's the other thing, is that I think people see shriveled and they assume that that's thirsty. And these have a very great way to tell you that they are, in fact, thirsty. So if you look, hopefully you'll be able to see this, but there is a line. I don't know if that's even focusing. Do you see that little line on there? So when these get thirsty, that line concaves and it looks more like a teardrop shape instead of this perfectly round little pea. And that's when it's thirsty. Shriveling denotes too much water. So I feel like that's where a lot of the confusion comes in that people see it shriveled and assume it's thirsty and give it more water, and then that just makes it worse. So you want to make sure that if it is thirsty, it's going to concave a little bit, and you don't have to wait until it has dented in. You can just fill the soil and fill the weight of the pot. That's a really good way for me. I feel like, you know, fill the pot after you water it, and fill it, you know, when it's dry, and you can tell the weight difference. It's usually very noticeable. And so that's another way. You can stick your finger down in there. You can have a moisture probe. I use all of those methods with my plants to see if they need water or not. So anyway, remember, concave and more teardrop shape usually means it's thirsty. Shriveling usually and like soft, when they turn really soft, that's too much water. So either cut back the frequency or the amount that you're giving it, or both, depending on, they don't need tons and tons of water. They really are. They are a succulent, so you want to kind of treat them that same way. And then I feel like I had another tip for you, but I think that's really it. I have this one as well, and you can see where I have swirled him back on himself, and I'm going to do that again and try and thicken him up. But the bobby pins into the soil is really the best way to hold them in place, because again, they have to have really good contact with the soil or they're not going to root, and they lift easily. So that's been the best way for me to hold it in, so to make sure it gets good root and good connection, and then I don't have to worry about it. You know, I don't have to fuss with them. I just put it in and then let it go, and they just grow really well. So thank you guys for watching again, and oh yeah, I'm gonna stop because my voice is going. But if you have any other plants you want some tips about, or if you have any specific questions, please let me know. I would love to, you know, do videos that are relevant to what you guys want to know about. So have a wonderful day, and see you next time.